Hello. It's the Divine Code reading for October 5th. Pages 239 and 230 and 240. We're in the chapter, The Prohibition Against Aiding Idol Worshippers. Topic number 6. If an idol has a pool or garden associated with it, and likewise any shop or any project whose profit is dedicated for the salary of the idol's priests, or the upkeep and maintenance of an idol. So they're having a bake sale to do things with the idol, or they have some carnival. They're having a street carnival outside of the house of idol worship, and the proceeds will go towards the idol worship. Or they have a shop, next to the house of idol worship. They go through a lot of flowers at this particular place, so they open a flower and candle shop, because they go through a lot of them. They figure, okay, we're gonna have a side business. Side business benefits the house of idolatry. One may benefit from it only if he is not charged. So he does not support the idol financially. So they have a garden outside the place, and people from the city, from the neighborhood, are allowed to just freely walk through the garden. There's no idols in the garden. It's not a place of idol worship. It's just something that the idolaters put up for beautification of the neighborhood. But one may not benefit from it if one has to pay for example, there's an entrance fee that will be payment to the idol's priests. Even if it was partially owned by idolaters and partially owned by others, one may not benefit from it through paying for this opportunity. So if it's free to walk through the garden, it's just a regular garden. Idolaters enjoy gardens, and so they make a garden just for the sake of having a garden. You can walk through it. But if there's an entry fee that benefits the idol worshipers, it benefits the priest, benefits the functioning of the idolatry, then it's not permitted. They're doing it as a fundraiser, then it's not permitted. If the profit from the payment will go to the public and not to the idol itself, even if the public serves the idol, it is permitted to partake of this benefit, even if one must pay. See Shulchan Aruch Yeridea, chapter 143. So they have a park. There's an entry fee for the park, but the profits from the entry fee to the park does not, it just goes to maintain the park, or it just goes for some other public benefit. That would be permitted to pay. Some rabbinic authorities say that this applies specifically when there is an idol or in the pool or garden or courtyard. But if there is no idol in it and the priests only collect money from the entrance fee, it is permitted. However, if the profit goes directly to the upkeep and maintenance of the idol, or the expenses of its service, for example, to pay for incense that was burned for it, all rabbinic authorities say that it is forbidden to pay for partaking of this benefit. Rima for Shulchan Aruch Yeridea, chapter 143. So I'm sorry, that'd be Shulchan Aruch Yeridea, chapter 141 for the Rima. So the entry fee, you'd have to be able to look at the books of the place. figure out the finances of how they're doing this. If the money is going for the upkeep of the priest has to earn a living, and for the sake of the priest, just like it's okay to bow for the sake of showing honor to the priest. In the earlier part of this book, it said, if the priest it's possible to bow for the sake of showing honor to the priest, as long as the priest is not carrying a symbol of the idolatry. He's just bowing in honor of a person. That's permitted. But if the priest is carrying the idolatry with him, he's carrying a symbol of the idol with him, then it's not permitted to bow in front of the priest, because that would be seen as bowing to the idol. So here, if the entry fee is benefiting the priest, you're helping the priest as a person. Some rabbis would say that's okay, which implies that some rabbis would say it's not okay. So there's a dispute about that. If it's okay to do something that's beneficial to the idolatrous priest. But if it's going toward, the money's going towards the idolatry itself, then it's prohibited to pay the entry fee. Topic number 7. If a town of idol worshippers is participating in a festival for their idol, and it has some shops that are adorned for the festival and others are not, it is forbidden to buy anything in the adorned shops, since it is assumed that they are adorned for the sake of idol worship. So you got some shops. Now this is a case where there's freedom of religion. Because some shops are adorned for it and some shops are not. So there's the freedom that the shop owner has a choice whether to participate in the festival or not to participate in the festival. He's allowed to not participate in the festival. Therefore, in such a case where the shop owners are creating the choice for themselves, then we need to respect the choice and stick with the shop owner that does not adorn his shop for the idol worship. And if one buys merchandise there, he will be supporting the owners in their idol worship or in their donations of funds for idolatrous purposes. So we know that those particular shop owners are involved with the idol worship, and they're going to be using their finances for the idol worship, and they're showing it clearly in the way that they adore their shop. But if one transgressed and did buy from them, he may nevertheless benefit from this purchase. He may, though. Okay. So just like there's other cases where the action is prohibited, but the consequence of the action would still be permitted, such as the grafting of a fruit tree or mixing non-idolatrous items in with idolatrous items in order to nullify the mixture. These kind of things are forbidden up front, but afterwards you're allowed to use the items. So if a person went into one of the shops, he's not allowed to buy the item, but once he bought the item, he's allowed to use the item. If there is no alternative available, and that he's allowed to use the item is Rambam, Laws of the Worship of Stars and Idols, Chapter 9. If there's no alternative available, or if it would be a hardship to travel to an unadorned shop, it is not forbidden to purchase a necessity from the adorned shop. So if there's something the person needs to buy, and it would be a hassle to walk across town to the unadorned shop or the next town, it's a distance, it's a trouble. The person needs the item. It's not a luxury item. It's not something you can just wait about. You can wait a couple weeks till the festival's over and then everyone's taking down their decorations. If he needs the item and it's a hassle to get to another store, the unadorned store, then he's permitted to use the store that has the idol worship festive things in it. Topic number 8. It is forbidden to rent stores from idol worshipers, since this gives them profit unless there is no alternative available. If the profit falls to the ruling power and they pay for the needs of the idol, it is permissible to rent the store to rent the store. And Shokanoric Eurodea 143. So if there's a business and renting a store, but in business in general, it's best not to do things that increase the profitability, increase the finances of the idol worshipers. Now, the government is in a different category. The government, a lot of places, the government pays money towards idol worship, and it's just part of the tax system, or it's part of their activity. In those cases, it's okay because we have to function with the government. It's okay to interact with them financially, pay taxes or to pay rent, even though that some of that money is going to go towards the idol worship. It's just in a different category. You know, we don't have choices when it comes to dealing with the government. The same way we have choices, we do have choices as to who to buy from, assuming that there's choices, so assuming there's competition. We have choices. But with government, you're kind of stuck with what you have. So it's permissible to pay the money to the government. Topic number 9. It is forbidden to provide money to collectors of taxes or tithes for an idol. Shokanoric Shokanoric Eurodea 140, chapter 143, and Rima 149. Shokanoric Eurodea 149.4. So the government's coming through and charging tax specifically for the idol. In that case, it's forbidden, which might put a person in a difficult position. But one may pay a tax to a ruling power that stipulates that a certain amount of the tax will be used for the sake of the idolatry. So the general tax is permitted. If it's a specific tax for the sake of the idolatry, a specific fee for the, it's a special tax that they go around and collect for the sake of the idolatry, it's forbidden to provide the money, which can put a person in a difficult position with the government. You would have to look at how far a person would have to go. There's other areas in the prohibition against murder. There's discussion of how far a person would have to go to of difficulty a person would have to go through for the purpose of idol worship. For a Jew, they are not allowed at all to participate in idol worship, and paying the tax might be considered participating in idol worship. For a non-Jew, it's not as strict. So at what point the person would have to just go ahead and pay the money, and at what point would he refuse to pay the money would require a lot more discussion. I'm sure it's going to be discussed more in the forthcoming part of the book on the laws of courts. But for right now, it's on the basic level, it's forbidden to pay the money. If there's a choice involved, you don't pay the money. However, if there's a general tax, and part of the budget that the government has is to pay for the idolatry, it's permitted to pay the general tax. Shokanoric Uridea, chapter 143. Topic number 10. If one buys a collection of many items from an idol worshiper and finds among them items and idols and images, idols and other forbidden images, and it is clear that they have not been nullified, or books of idolatry, may return them to the seller and receive payment, since they were accepted in error as part of the purchase. Shokanoric Uridea 146.3. So the person might receive a box of things, a collection of things, and he discovers afterwards, the description of the items he purchased was not clear that it was an idolatrous image. He thought he was buying garden statues, garden statues of frogs to put in his garden. Then he discovers that there's little symbols on the statues of frogs that shows they're idols. He didn't realize that. He's allowed to take the statues back to the idol worshiper and get a refund. Even though this is the basic rule, it is logical to say that it is a better option for the buyer to nullify the idolatrous items. If it is possible and is not a difficulty to sell then sell them, because returning the idols without nullification will possibly facilitate the seller and other customers in acts of idol worship or things related to it. So if he bought these frogs by accident, he can knock the nose off the frog or whatever it is you do to nullify an idolatrous image, and then sell the frogs to other people. Or I suppose he could, at that, well, maybe he wouldn't, because it's not, maybe he wasn't able to take the symbol off him. So he doesn't want them in his garden, but he sells them to somebody else. He'd be taking a loss at that point. He's taking a hit financially. And if it causes a difficulty for him to do that, he's still allowed to not nullify it, because if he nullifies it, he's not going to be able to return it to the seller. So it's better for him to nullify it. If it creates a hardship for him, he's allowed to return it to the seller for a refund, for a full refund. But then the seller's just going to turn around and sell it to an idolater. So because the buyer had it in his hand to nullify it, it's better to nullify it and take it out of circulation, so to speak. If children inherit from their parent, who was an idol worshiper, and one child observes the 7 Noahide commandments and does not serve the idol, and the other children do serve the idol, the righteous child may not tell his idolatrous siblings, "You take the idols," or ritual items or books of idolatry, and I will take the equivalent corresponding amount of money. Rather, the righteous child must take his equal portion of the inheritance and then destroy or nullify the idolatrous idols that were included. He may not give or exchange those things to anyone else, even including his siblings, in order not to facilitate others in serving idols. So this is another case where it came into his hands. Now, he can't return it because it's an inheritance. And he can't, if his siblings serve the idol, then they're going to, if they receive these items, they're just going to use it in their idolatrous service. And he can't sell it to somebody else. So he has to, he's stuck with it. And he has to nullify it or destroy it. And that's just That's just where he's at with it. So that's how that inheritance works. And because it's an inheritance, he can't return it for a refund. See Shokunor Uridea 146.4 and shock there. That in a case of convert to Judaism and his Gentile siblings who inherit from their parent, the convert can tell the Gentile siblings, you take the idols, and I will take an equivalent object or payment, since there is no inheritance due to a convert based on Torah law. But this is rather a rabbinic ordinance that a convert to Judaism is allowed to take possession of an inheritance that is bestowed from him if he wishes. But an inheritance that comes to a Gentile is valid from Torah law, and therefore he immediately acquires any idolatrous items that are included. Unlike the first case where there's a mistaken transaction that can therefore be reversed. The Gentile may not sell or exchange those items with his siblings, since he will be causing them to err with forbidden objects. So this is just explaining that there is a Torah law regarding a convert. A convert would have siblings that are non-Jews. Now, technically, the convert does not inherit from his father because there's a change that occurs that he's no longer legally the family member from a Torah, halakhic Torah standpoint. But if he benefits, it would be like a person who, a non-family member who receives something in a will. It doesn't become his until he actually accepts it. Therefore, in that case, he could, if the person, in that case, he has wiggle room. He has the ability to say he doesn't want something, ask if he can negotiate to get something else with the other people in the inheritance. So, in that case, he does not receive it until he accepts it. But in the case of a halachically, legally family member who inherits, he inherits immediately. Whether he accepts it or not, he automatically receives the items, and therefore he doesn't have the ability to negotiate because it's already his. So in that case, he would not be allowed to return the items. Thank you.